Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of July 25th, 2015, and one key-mee or transformation in the Mayan Zolkin calendar with Venus and Uranus turning retrograde, the Aquarius blue full moon, and Saturn turning direct. And July 25th is one key-mee or transformation. It carries the themes of death and rebirth, forgiveness, surrender, guidance of women through pregnancy, new beginnings through the release of what no longer serves us, psychic abilities, and self-actualization. Transformation day sign also speaks of a choice between following our heart's intuition and the wisdom of our ancestors, nature, and Mother Earth, or the path of the ego and the dialogue of the chattering mind. And I believe that we all chose to incarnate during this time of intense transformation. So it's important that we flow with the cosmic changes. For this reason, that's actually the reason why I put out these reports, so that you'll have the information to prepare you for a difficult time periods, but also so that you can savor the times when the energy is allowing for an ease in the opening and expansion of consciousness. A reading will dial this in for you on a much deeper personal level, but these reports have a good overall information for navigating these uncertain times. There may be growing pains associated with transformation, but I believe that it is resistance to these evolutionary shifts that create suffering. And we are beginning a new Gregorian month during this Trecena, so I thought I'd discuss the metaphysics of the upcoming month. August is the 8th month, and with the digits of 2015, when we add them together, we get 16, and then we can add the 1 and the 6. That tells us that we're in a 16-7 month in numerology. Basic numerology reduces the numbers to 1 through 9. So when we think about that arc, the 7 represents a time of digging into events and situations to get a deeper perspective with a stronger focus on values, motives, and ethics, which are all themes of the sign Scorpio, which now has an influence as we have Saturn backing into Scorpio and in the sign of the Scorpion during this report period. Saturn's going to be turning direct on the 2nd. This 16-7 combination is represented by the Tower and the Chariot in the Tarot cards, which is about everything that is contrary to our authentic self is destroyed or jettisoned through finding our stillness, even though as we are in motion. This quote from William Law represents the Tower archetype. I feel within me a consuming fire of heavenly love, which has burned up in my soul everything contrary to itself and transformed me inward into its own nature. And this offering from Emerson is helpful in understanding the Chariot. Motion or change and identity or rest are the first and second laws of nature. Motion and rest. The whole code of her laws may be written on the thumbnail. So August really represents a dramatic shift, as June brought us new options, and then July brought us further down the path regarding the situations that lead us to a new life. And we begin this time of evolution in August that leads to the solar and lunar eclipses in September. So before I get into the daily energy for one key-mee or transformation, on the 25th, all the planets appear to be moving forward or direct from our vantage point here on the Earth, with the exception of Saturn, Chiron, Neptune, and Pluto, which appear to be moving retrograde or in reverse motion. And remember, the themes of retrograde planets are a review of the past, reevaluate, reminisce, and we can see these themes being played out. Saturn retrograde started in Sag, but then is currently backed into Scorpio. Saturn retrograde reviews our commitments, plans, what we do for work, the structures of our lives. And this one is a little more complicated because Saturn did start its apparent reverse motion in Sagittarius, and currently it's back into the final degrees of Scorpio. Saturn retrograde is a real taskmaster that demands we take responsibility to review our beliefs while in Sagittarius and our ethics while in Scorpio. Chiron retrograde, it's in Pisces. It's about releasing stuck emotional energy so that we can return to the natural flow of life. Retrograde Chiron has us reviewing our wounds so that they can be released by having the courage to open our hearts to any fear or pain associated with our past. When Chiron is in Pisces, people are willing to sacrifice their individual pain in hopes of finding bliss in universal consciousness. At worst, this can be manifest as folks justifying their victimhood as some form of martyrdom. And this should be, this really should be transcendence and surrender without losing ourselves in the experience. And then Neptune retrograde in Pisces is seeking to transcendence through spiritual experiences. This is a time to use spiritual practices to keep us grounded as we expand our intuition and consciousness. Both Neptune and Pisces, the sign that it rules, tend to be dreamy, imaginative, difficult to nail down due to these qualities of illusion and illumination, and often without any way to know which is which they represent compassion and codependence, selflessness and loss of self, higher purpose and substance abuse in their inspiration to transcend the material plane and experience something beyond words and thoughts. And when we got Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, this is the planet of transformation through death and rebirth cycle. Its retrograde is about reviewing the past and releasing anything from the past that's a burden to our new path. Pluto in Capricorn is determined in exposing the darkness, destroying the old order, so that we can rise up like the phoenix from the ashes and soar again. Capricorn is about large structures, including banks, governments, corporations, and religions. And Pluto is in Capricorn until 2023, where it will be destroying and then regenerating the structures that are a foundation of our societies represented by Capricorn. This is a time of a cosmic course correction for the entire planet. We cannot continue to harm Mother Earth for the economic gain of a few. And then Venus, which is the most sacred planet to the Maya, is slowing to a stop. It's actually at a stop because it turns retrograde before sunrise on the 25th, which is actually covered in the July 12th care and feeding of a new world age. But basically, Venus retrograde reviews not only our social and romantic relationships, but also what we value. So this is a period where people will assess what they're attracted to, including possessions and wealth. Venus began its retrograde in Virgo. So we've got the planet of aesthetics in Virgo. So this is all aesthetics, romance, money. But it's only going to remain in the sign of the Virgin for 2 weeks. And then it backs into the sign of Leo on July 31st. And Venus retrograde will be a time when people will notice events related to our relationships and or money that shifts our thinking to prepare us for the change we'll implement after Venus is direct. Often we reconnect with old friends and lovers and repair ailing relationships during a Venus retrograde. And then we've got Uranus in Aries preparing to turn retrograde at 20 degrees, 30 minutes of Aries on July 26th. And when a planet is stopped, it's said to be at the peak of its power. So Uranus is at the peak of its power during July, and it's seeking to shake our very foundation through the unexpected rebellion of the individual. Stationed Uranus in Aries will have us people wanting to hurry the process of getting free, to push the river of revolution, whether it's personal or political. This impulse may not be in the best interest of those acting on it, because Pluto in Capricorn these changes and their consequences maybe have long-lasting and be very difficult to reverse. And when I think about this is a time of detaching Uranus to act as an unobstructed individual represented by Aries. I think of the day that Uranus changed signs, moving from Pisces into Aries on March 11th of 2011. And I always remember that was the day of the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, which crippled the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which is still unstable and spewing radiation to this day. Although we rarely hear anybody talking about that this is actually out there killing the Pacific Ocean. But you're hearing it here anyway. And of course, Uranus rules uranium. And Uranus in astrology forces us outside of our comfort zone so that we have to look for possibilities outside of the box. This is about unplanned experiences that disrupt our perceived and planned life path in order to move forward in our spiritual evolution individually and globally. And Uranus spends approximately 7 years in a sign before it moves into the next sign. And it leaves Aries for Taurus in 2018. Then it retrogrades back into Aries and finally departs for almost 80 years in March of 2019. So these 7-year cycles are about testing us to adapt to a new change. And we're currently experiencing the Aries test. And being an outer planet, Uranus creates events that we respond to. Inner planets affect us personally as individuals, but the outer planets change the landscape, which affects us as a collective and as individuals within humanity. And that reminds me of this Krishnamurti quote: "The only hope for humankind is the transformation of the individual." Uranus creates challenges according to the sign it's in, so you may feel like you're getting lessons in a theme over and over again. And Uranus is the modern ruling planet of Aquarius, which means that fairness is going to be one of the topics that comes up. Often these events may seem unfairly set against us. I know I feel that way with the government and corporations conspiring to poison us with GMO foods and starve us through austerity measures, oil and tar sand spills, fracking, chemtrails, geoengineering, and man-made massive weather events. While the global elite eat organic food, build underground bunkers, and hoard seeds in Arctic vaults, which really brings us to the theme of Aries. It's the self, the individual, the new beginning. This time particularly impacts people with personal planets in the signs of Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and of course Aries, as these planets become doorways to something unexpected and yet authentic, which sets the stage, which had set the stage for the epic 7 challenging squares that we've experienced between Pluto in Capricorn and Uranus in Aries that we began discussing back in 2012. As individuals, Aries revolting Uranus against decaying power, Pluto structures Capricorn, which we can see in almost every corner of the Earth as individuals and groups protest oppression from the global elite. And I believe that this uprisings will be successful in overthrowing the old regimes and patriarchy, but it really is an uphill fight for some time to come. And interestingly, the last time there were Uranus-Pluto squares, which was 1932 to 1934, Uranus was in Aries, as it is now. And we've talked about that back in May. We talked about Mercury retrogrades repeating every 79 years. So we're currently repeating the 1936 Mercury cycle, which brings forward similar aspects that are being played out in the event field. And that was a time of great upheaval with events such as the Dust Bowl, which caused by farming practices that stripped the earth. We're kind of seeing some of that being played out in California right now. Which was when the weather changed. When the weather changed, those farming practices led to this destruction of the landscape. And we're seeing this as in the drought of California, where companies are taking the water to sell as bottled water at the expense of farming and people and those citizens and people having drinking water. Think of that. That was also the time of the Great Depression, with internal power struggles, leadership changes, financial adjustments such as the New Deal programs under Franklin Delano Roosevelt here in the U.S., which happened between 1933 and 1936. And they created a safety net for the poor and unemployed, which are the same programs that the U.S. government is currently trying to dismantle. So these are themes that are being played out in many other countries as well. And thinking about the many environmental events that we're facing, whether they're man-made or natural, I'm always reminded that Uranus was one of the original gods of the Greeks. He was a sky god, and he was the husband of the earth goddess Gaia. And he was born out of the primordial chaos, and he came every night to cover the earth and mate with Gaia. Unfortunately, he hated the children she bore him and killed or imprisoned most of them until his son Kronos, or Saturn, his modern name, ambushed his father, castrated him, and cast his severed testicles into the sea, which then became Aphrodite, or Venus, the goddess of love. So after being disposed, the sky no longer covered the earth at night, and instead it held its place above the earth, which I guess was the beginning of being able to study the movements of the planets and stars in the night sky. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy for this Trecena. July 25th is one key-mee, or transformation, unity experienced through releasing what no longer serves us in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. And at this point, Venus turns retrograde from our perspective on the Earth. So when you think about the planets, direct motion would be counterclockwise on this diagram around the sun, obviously. And so when a planet gets into the inner circle here, it appears from our perspective on Earth to be moving clockwise, and that's how we would that's how they get identified as being retrograde. So Venus retrograde brings the second stage where we learn about a change in our personal course in life through our experiences in relationships. Retrogrades, again, are times of review and looking backward. Venus retrograde is every 18 months and can have an impact on our relationships, but also our money, because Venus rules money. So we may be reviewing past financial dealings with an eye for choices that did not work out as planned. Overall, something from the past needs to be resolved, whether it's a love relationship or a financial connection. Overall, I think the trap to watch out for is regret. In the past is the past. So let go of your regrets. Try not to waste much time or thought on whether somebody dumped you in the past and regrets their choice. When I think about regrets, shallow people tend not to have many regrets. So if somebody tossed you aside by somebody who doesn't seem to regret that, it's quite possible that they did you a favor. Also on the 25th, we've got Mars in a square to Uranus. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 90-degree angle, which is like somebody on the sidelines trying to provoke Uranus into action as the intensity increases, with aggressive revolutionary energy as the integrity of the old world structures continue to be assaulted, and those in power violently try to suppress individuals fighting for change in humanity. A few days before and after the 25th, when the transit is an orb, we would benefit from physical activity to channel some of this reckless, impulsive energy. This is more energy to bring completions to old, worn-out situations, to prepare for new beginnings. And when we look at Mars being challenged by Uranus and Venus turning retrograde the same day, accidents and arguments are likely, especially since Uranus is at a standstill or station before turning retrograde on the 26th, which can bring impulsive, even reckless actions. So caution is really a watchword on the 25th. I'm not going to be covering the daily lunar activity in these reports other than new and full moons, but that information is available on the New World Birth daily Facebook post and also on the blogger New World Birth blog. So you can find that lunar information there. On the 26th, we have two, Manique or deer, duality experienced through being of service to others. And at this point, Uranus is turning retrograde from our perspective here on the Earth, which will inspire people to break out of anything that confines them. The winds of change are changing direction and will move the revolutionary energy to a more personal place until December 26th. July 27, 3 is 3 Lamont or star or rabbit or Venus in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. This is about taking action through being grateful for abundant relationships. The 28th is 4 Maluk or offering, stability through appreciating all of creation. July 29th is 5 Ak or dog, empowerment through enjoying family and friends in the Zolkin calendar. The 30th is 6 Shuin or monkey, being in the flow through creating something new. And then July 31st, the last day of July, is 7 Ebb or road, reflection through serving your community, with the Aquarius full moon, which is also the blue moon at 7 degrees, is opposed by Mercury as well as the sun in Leo. And of course, we get the standard type of hype related to different people will start talking whenever there's something predominant about Aquarius, about the Aquarian age. This is discussed by astrologers who really have not done their research into when the Aquarian age will occur, which was covered. I've been covering this for years. It's included in a New World Birth video from back on January 13th of 2013. It's still available on YouTube if you want to understand when the Aquarian age really will occur. And if you connected with that offering, you know that we are over 300 years away from the Aquarian age, which is being hyped as being a time of spiritual bliss. But Aquarius represents technology and non-personal humanity, which, it makes me think of that show, Star Trek, The Next Generation. And in that show, there's this thing called the Borg Collective, which is like this impersonal technology that travels the universe, assimilating others into its group consciousness. And, that's very much like the energy of Aquarius and the Aquarian age. It's not the spiritual bliss that people are putting out there, and it's certainly not anywhere knocking on our doorstep. And ironically, the characters that I root for in the Next Generation show are more represented by the Leo opposition Aquarius, being willful, creative, strong individuals. Anyway, none of us are going to be alive in our current incarnation when the Aquarian age dawns. So this full moon is really about finding balance between our social consciousness, the moon in Aquarius, and being happy, creative, and having fun, the sun in Leo, with some feeling a real conflict between feelings and reason, and others having fruitful expressions of their deeper awareness, either internally or with others represented by the moon's opposition to Mercury. The Leo sun wants to be dramatically expressed, feeling tension with the transpersonal path to reason of the Aquarian moon. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, so the results of this full moon are unpredictable. This is very challenging for folks with planets between 5 and 9 degrees of Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. And then also on the 31st, Venus retrogrades back into Leo. So it's backing into the previous sign, which, Venus and Leo can bring flamboyant and dramatic effect on our romances and social gatherings. People are more inspired to splurge on gifts for loved ones over the next 3 weeks. This lifts people's spirits and brings more joy and creativity. Actually, I think it's going to be in Leo for much longer than 3 weeks. But anyway, basically Venus with the influence of Leo, especially where it's joining Jupiter in the sign of the Lion, this could bring some real global drama. It lifts people's spirits, brings more joy and creativity into our interpersonal relationships. August 1st is 8 Ben or reed or corn. This is about balance through maintaining the home in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. August 2nd is 9 Ish or jaguar, patience experience through enjoying nature. And at this point, we've got Saturn turning direct. So from our perspective here on Earth, Saturn is slowing down to start moving in the direction we would expect it to be moving. It's going to take a while to pick up speed, but it brings a time period where we can implement a course correction regarding an obstacle that's been in our path over the last few months. Saturn's forward movement can show us a new path and make us aware that we have a responsibility to work on making something better through being conscious of our ethics, motives, and intentions. Saturn is stationed at 28 degrees Scorpio, which has been intense for folks with planets in the late degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Even though the pressure will dissipate slowly, it will be an improvement to get some relief. And then also on the 2nd, Mercury is in a trine to Uranus. So from our perspective here on the Earth, Mercury is forming a 120 degree angle to the planet Uranus. So it's really moved further around to about 20 degrees Leo to make that trine. And when Mercury dances through the sign of Leo, we've got Uranus. It's the higher octave planet of Mercury. Mercury is about our personal thinking and communicating, while Uranus is about transpersonal communing with something larger than ourselves. This is very stimulating transit. It raises conscious awareness and brings more of the love for life, a desire to seize the day, carpe diem. New ideas come quickly with solutions for a problem that maybe has been perplexing, somehow is available under this influence after being unavailable for the days leading up to this time period. This energy is looking to break a break from routine, to go out and do something out of the ordinary. It favors studying of new topics, particularly astrology, science, math, technology, and the occult. Expect some electric conversations under this influence, as Mercury makes a very favorable angle with Uranus. Excuse me. On the 3rd, we've got 10 men or eagle manifestation through seeing from a higher perspective, while Jupiter forms a square with Saturn. So Jupiter's moving further along. It's getting to be about 28 degrees now, making a 90-degree angle with Saturn from our perspective here on the Earth. This brings energy to make adjustments in life, such as separating from people or circumstances that are not beneficial. This process is likely to come from feeling tension between Jupiter's expansion and Saturn's restriction, through realizing what is inappropriate and becoming more aligned with a sense of duty and responsibility. Because this transit can bring confusion about whether to expand or cut back. This may be a good time to to go off by yourself, as other people's advice is of little value. This also brings a strong feeling of uncertainty and restlessness, but don't rush to make any change, because often we do not have all the facts. In financial markets, Jupiter square Saturn often creates restriction, which some will resent and impulsively go all in response to feeling limited with less than optimal results. August 4th is 11 key, or wisdom, resolution through introspection, meditation, and forgiveness. While we have Venus conjunct Jupiter. So from our perspective here on Earth, Venus and Jupiter are at the same degree of Leo, which is one of the most agreeable transits. Unfortunately, it only lasts a day, but it has a very pleasant effect on people's moods. Many will be more optimistic, happy, outgoing, and eager. It can also bring folks to indulge themselves and spend money, as self-discipline is low. This would be a great day to have any type of celebration. Of course, with Venus, love relationships are favored. So typically it's excellent energy for a wedding or a party. And then on the 5th, we have 12 Kaban, or Earth, understanding through gratitude for Mother Earth. And at this point, we've got Venus in a square to Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 90-degree angle between Venus and Saturn, which can be a day of having difficulty relating to others, feeling cool, reserved, isolated. Many will be reevaluating what they're getting out of their relationships as opposed to what they're putting in. And also if you feel like loneliness or depression on the 5th, just realize that this too shall pass. This is a short-term transit. And then on August 6th, we have 13 Etsnob, or Flint, movement to the next stage through being introspective in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. And we've got Mars in a trine to Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, Mars will have moved along to about 28 degrees of Cancer in order to make this trine with Saturn, 120-degree angle. And with Saturn's support, Mars finds patience and the willingness to do difficult and precision work. This is a rare time when Mars's usual erratic and impulsive energy can be focused and concentrated on a task that demands constant attention, even if the job is not rewarding or glamorous. And so we've got 3 planets in water signs, are opening a doorway for emotional evolution. The planets being Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. Also on the 6th, Mercury is conjunct Venus. So from our perspective here on Earth, Mercury and Venus are at the same degree of Leo, which stimulates our appreciation of beauty, whether it be art, poetry, music, people, or nature. In Leo, people may be more likely to dramatically express their love for others. This is the merging of mental and emotional realms within ourselves, so folks may experience concepts with emotions or express feelings with in an intellectual manner. This is wonderful for creativity and any type of artistic expression. This transit can be favorable for financial and business dealings, along with scientific research by seeing a pattern in the universe and then appreciating them aesthetically. And then also on the 6th, we've got Mercury here in a square to Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, certainly Mercury is moving along to that 28 degrees of the signs. So we're really getting a lot of planets in these last degrees of their sign. Mercury square Saturn. This favors heavy mental contemplation that requires disciplined thinking, a sharper mind, and a higher standard for quality. This also brings difficulty in communicating and being understood by others. So it's not the best time for any type of negotiation with folks misinterpreting each other. I delay business dealings for a day or two. This is also a time when people are more likely to withdraw and feel lonely. The gift of this passage is it increases our ability to think practically, but also to see the imperfections and flaws. Overall, the 6 will be bring us new understandings and conscious awareness. So no matter what the energies are that are affecting you during the one transformation trecena, take some time to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature or watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, just really being conscious when you're in the presence of somebody you love, doing meditation or being introspective. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. I think we're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just take some time to observe the play, watch your movie, as well as acting your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the care and feeding of a new world age will be on August 7th for one Kawak or storm with Mercury and Jupiter entering Virgo, Mars entering Leo, and the Leo new moon. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, or the Mayan Magics website. And I encourage you to share this information, whether it's as a videos or as text, as widely as you choose. And as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 levels of compensation. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And if you want to make a donation, just email me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com, and I'll send you instructions on how you can do that. One of the best ways I can think of as making a donation is get a reading. The readings I offer tend to be quite epic. They usually go 2 hours or 3 hours. Sometimes they go 4 hours. And in the 2 higher compensation readings, I use the human design chart to discuss who you are, who's your character in your movie. And then I use astrology transits to talk about what are the scenes that your character is going through. And then what's going to be the lines of your character in your movie. That's where your strategy and authority comes in from the human design portion. So as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and much gratitude, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. All my best to everybody.